everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Amy. Today I figured I'd share some of my all-time favorite books with you. I thought that would be a great way for you guys to get to know me a little bit better and some of my reading tastes. This is by no means a comprehensive list. This list is constantly growing and changing, and my opinion changes as the years go on and as I revisit books, but these are the ones that I picked out today, right now. I have 10 that I'm going to talk about in a little bit more depth, and then I have 3 honorable mentions that I just couldn't leave out the list, but I think I can just glaze over a little bit more. So if you're interested in finding out what some of my favorite books have been throughout the years, go ahead and keep watching. I'm just gonna start with my honorable mentions and get those out of the way. I'm just gonna fly through these real quick. The first is Paris Letters by Janice MacLeod. I'm most likely pronouncing that incorrectly. I apologize. The next one is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And the last of my honorable mentions is The World of Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne and illustrated by E.H. Shepard. A Loki modified copy. These books are in no particular order. I will let you know if one of them is like a top like all-time holy grail favorite or not. But the first one that I have for you is a sci-fi book that I've read several times, and I actually read to my husband on a road trip. We do that frequently when we travel together, and that is Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight. This is a series, I believe there's 4 of them. This is the first in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, and this story follows Lessa, who is a young girl, like teenage girl, who has a special power in that she can talk to all dragons. In this world, typically you can only talk to the dragon that you were paired with. It's kind of like a soul bond pairing type of thing, but she can talk to all of them, and this is kind of her adventures in the world and how she gets involved with dragons and everything that follows. It's a wonderful story. I need to get back to it and reread it again, and it's a great place to start with sci-fi as well. This next series is from an author that I've already mentioned on my channel, and that would be Tamora Pierce's books, and in particular the Immortal series. These books follow a girl named Dane who has a special, very rare type of magic called wild magic, and specifically her magic is with animals, and it is about her learning about her powers and learning to control them and becoming immersed in a very special, like legendary group of individuals throughout this kingdom. It's a wonderful story. I have read these books so many times. I don't know if you can tell, but like they are well loved. I've had these books for years. I will let you know though that if you don't want to be spoiled from other characters from the same world, I would not read these ones first. I will leave a list of Tamora Pierce's books down below and the year that they were published, so that if you want to follow them without spoilers, you can do that. I'm one of those people. I hate to be spoiled on any itty bitty thing, but definitely a favorite from when I was young. And Tamora Pierce really, she got me into fantasy and reading all the time, and I just adored these books and the characters in them. A non-fiction book that I have for you is The Secret Lives of Bats by Merlin Tuttle, My Adventures with the World's Most Misunderstood Mammals. I found this book last year when I was just kind of got a bee in my bonnet to read a book about bats. I have no idea. But Merlin Tuttle is the world's leading biologist on bats and the study of bats, and he's started different foundations and groups of people to protect bats and educate people about bats, because they get such a bad rap in so many places, and they are phenomenal, important creatures. This book just separates into different sections of his life and how he got into the study of bats and how his career progressed and how he started working for National Geographic and photographing bats and the effort that it took to photograph bats before there was digital cameras. It is amazing the lengths they went through to learn about these incredible creatures. If you have any interest in animals or learning about how they work, this is a great book. I've already had several of my friends read it that I know would be interested, and they loved it as well. So a definite good one. This next one that I have is one that I have read recently, and I know I will come back to time and time again, and that is The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. This book I know has gotten a lot of hype. I haven't heard a lot about it on YouTube, but I may just be late to the bandwagon on it. But this is the story about a man named Perdue who owns a bookshop that is housed in a barge on the Seine in Paris, and his job as a bookshop owner is that he is a literary pharmacist for the people who come onto his boat, and they talk to him about their problems and he helps them find the perfect book they need for that point in their life. And then he kind of has a midlife crisis a little bit and ups his boat barge and starts headed down the river, and it's just his adventures and the people he meets along the way. This book made me laugh, this book made me cry. I have marked various sections of it because there's just points where the writing is so amazing. This is a book for people who love books. I have a book that is a collection of essays, and that is Ex Libris by Anne Fadiman, Confessions of a Common Reader. I found this book at a used bookstore and I just thought, oh, this sounds kind of interesting, and then absolutely loved it. It took me no time to read, but Anne is a person who just loves the written word and literature. She grew up in a family that was very well read. Her parents were both authors, and she remembers, instead of playing with blocks, playing with her dad's old collection of encyclopedias. And it's a wonderful story about how her life has been influenced by the written word and how she's been a writer. And again, this is a book for people who love books. In the back, she also makes references and has a list of recommendations for other books that inspired her when she was reading this and throughout her years. If you haven't read a collection of essays, I also think this is a fun one to start with because it's just super easy and simple, and I'm assuming you love books because you're watching this channel, so check this one out for sure. This next book that I have for you has been on many of people's favorites list, and for good reason. That book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have read this story more times than I can count. I come back to it time and time again. For those of you who may not know what this story is about, it is about a woman named Elizabeth Bennet and a man named Mr. Darcy, and how their worlds, which are very, very different, collide, and their relationship and their thoughts about each other. And it's a wonderful story. It makes wonderful commentary on the class system and the differences between people and what is pride and what is prejudice, as the name suggests. I will continue to read this book over and over again, and I mean, what more can you say about it? I have a book from my childhood and preteen years that has just always remained near and dear to my heart, and that is Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. I think there's very few booktubers that haven't read this book and haven't loved it. It was a Newbery Honor Book Award winner for good reason. For those of you who don't know, Ella Enchanted is a Cinderella retelling about a girl named Ella who was blessed with a gift from a fairy that she will follow all commands given to her. And this is about her coming of age story and how she deals with that problem. And it's a wonderful story full of whimsy and fairy tales and all the wondrous things that come along with that. It's a quick read. It's a middle grade-ish book. I love it. I just love it. This next book I have is the book that I would tell you if I had to only pick one favorite book, and that book is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. For those of you who don't know, this is a story about a girl named Francie Nolan who's growing up in Brooklyn in the 1910s, and it is just her coming of age story. There's really no other plot besides that. It's not a book that there's one thing that drives you through every single page, but regardless of that, I just found myself unable to put it down. The words and the writing of Betty Smith is so amazing and so vivid and so clear, and they just make you think about your life and the world that you live in through another lens and in such a beautiful way. Betty Smith was actually originally writing this book as a memoir about her life, but her publisher suggested that she make it into a novel, so it's heavily influenced by her childhood and how she grew up, and I think that's part of the reason why this book is just so incredible. If I would tell you to read any book from my list of favorite books, this would be it. I think everyone should read it. It'll make you think about your life and where you're headed and what made you that way, and I just love it so much. I've only read it one time, but I know it will always be a book that is near and dear to my heart. The next collection of books is a collection that made me fall in love with romance novels. Yes, I said it. I love and read romance novels. They just, as tropey as they are, they make my heart happy, and sometimes you just want a book that you know is going to end happy, so you go for a romance novel. And those books are the Avon True Romance books for teens. These books, oh gosh, I just love these books so much. I discovered these books at my local library when I was probably around 13, and each book is about a different couple. They're all from different worlds and different places and different points in history. They are all historical books, I will tell you that. But they're all just wonderful, adorable stories that you can't help but love. They're clean, so for those of you who have kids or you don't want to read anything that kind of gets into the smuttier side of things, these are wonderful for that. Totally age appropriate for young girls or young boys for that matter. Excuse me, anyone who would enjoy a romance novel. And I have read some of these books so many times. This one on top is literally falling apart. And the cool thing about these books is I found some of my favorite adult romance romance authors through these books, because these are all written by other authors who write other romance novels. So it's a great place to start and to get to know authors in the romance world. And these books make me happy. They make me smile. They're full of corniness and cliches, but sometimes that's just what you need. And last but certainly not least, I have another romance novel series on my list. I have not completed this series personally, and I actually don't think all of them have been released, or if they have, it's been only very recently. And those are a Warriors of the Mist books by Alexis Morgan. The first one is My Lady Mage, and the second one is Her Knight's Quest. And these are fantasy, historical romance novels. So there's a lot going on. And that can sound like there's no way that would work. The author was trying to do too much. And I think that totally could have happened, but it didn't. These stories follow a group of warriors who are enslaved of sorts to this goddess of the river, and they can be called upon by certain people when they are in need. And they've been around for centuries, so they're old and they're from different times. And the first one is about Merowyn, who found herself in a situation where she's trying to protect her home and her family and her castle, etc., etc., and she calls upon these warriors, and of course they come and a romance ensues, but it's great. There's action and magic, and it was so well executed. I need to finish the series. I really need to reread them anyways, and if you're a romance reader and you want something that's a little bit out of the box and not typical, these are great ones. Alrighty, so those are some of my favorite books that I have ever read. They're from all points of my life, and they will all be very special to me, I'm sure, for the years to come, for a variety of reasons. And these are books that I will come back to over and over again when my heart just needs time with an old friend. So if you have any book recommendations for me with kind of seeing some of the books that I'm interested in, please leave them in the comments below and leave some of your favorites as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it. If you loved it, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Happy reading. There's a book missing there. It's Pride and Prejudice. I had to grab it. But I have lots of copies of Pride and Prejudice, but I just figured this one would be best because all my other ones are antique ones and don't have anything to look out on the front of the book. What do you guys think of the background? Better? Worse? Yes? No? I'd love your feedback. This is just different parts of my house. I have books all over my house. I decorate them. There's like not a table in my house that doesn't have a book on it or near it. And I will always keep it that way. Because a house with books is a happy house. They make my heart happy. And your heart should be happy when you're in your house. Agreed? Agreed.